Welcome, Jack Complex, open daily, herbal and traditional pharmacy. Alternative medicine products for all various ailments. Visit our vegetarian cafeteria, affordable meals made to order. Burgers, hot dogs, soups, sandwiches, etc. Location 25 Dajrak Street, Triumph East Coast Demerara, behind the Regional 4 RDC. Telephone 626-5877 or 220-4386. Remember, you are what you eat.
They making new laws every day, and those of the master they throw away. The things they go about and preach, it's not what they teach, and no one seems to care. The whole world lives in fear, just despair everywhere.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna kullu Rasulullah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah. In the name of the Creator of our universe, in the recognition of all that was created and all that exists, we give praise and thanks to the Creator for allowing us to come together again for another sermon. Those of you who are here and those of you who are looking at this program, thank you for your support and hope that if everything I say is not in accordance with what you think, it doesn't matter. I am not angry about that, for we all have our own opinions. So I greet you, my brothers and sisters, with the greetings of peace. To my Christian brothers and sisters, peace be unto you. To my Hindu brothers and sisters, namaste. To my Rastafarian brothers and sisters, Jah peace and Jah love. And to my Muslim brothers and sisters and all other denominations, I greet you with the greetings of peace in the Arabic African language. Assalamu alaikum. I know, brothers and sisters, that we are very conscious of the fact that in terms of the human family and the Creator, we see, as far as we know on this earth, that we are created as male and female. What we have recognized in terms of the scriptural writings from the Bible, it is specifically said, and God created man, male and female created he them. You know, it was never said, and God created woman. It was said that God created man, mankind, kind of man, different kinds of man. And that is why at times I try my best to understand my brothers and sisters who affiliate themselves in relationships that consummate the same type of gender, because I am not in a position to say if they were created like that or not. What I understand is that man was created male and female, and so I see the story of the rib that God took out of Adam when he fell asleep and made Eve. It's a story that those who have their opinion of that will believe, but I have a problem with it. For God is not a laboratory technician. See, I don't see God in a lab taking out a rib and making a woman from the rib in a lab. For Almighty God, that is omnipotent, omnipresent, all-powerful energy of our universe, that has brought everything into existence, well, then maybe we have to see God as a farmer, digging up the earth, putting in the seed so that the coconut can grow, digging up the earth, putting in the seed so that the pawpaw and the okra and all these things can grow. We have to look at God doing that. If he took out the rib out of Adam, then he had to put it in a laboratory, a lab, and create Eve. No, I don't see it like that, brothers and sisters. For the God that I believe in is a God that just says be, and it is. That's the power of the God that I believe in. So when God created man, he created mankind, different kinds of man. And so we have man and we have woman, a type of man. That's why I wrote this book, brothers and sisters. This book is called Woman and the Fear of Man. I wrote this book over 20 years ago. It can be found on Amazon if you're interested. And I took it upon myself to explain in my own way the relationship between woman and man. I called the book, I entitled the book, Woman and the Fear of Man. Some women, when they get this book, they're saying, but why should women be afraid of men? No, it isn't that way. It's the opposite of way around. It's woman and the fear that man has of woman. That's why I entitled the book, Woman and the Fear of Man. It's a very simple book, very small book, but it can be had in our community. You have the telephone number there. But why I preferred to speak about this particular theme is because I do not leave God out of anything that is happening in the world. This whole word, this word that is called politics, I don't know how many of you understand what it means. I am still trying to find out what is the meaning of it. Because when I look into the people who are involved in politics, what they call politics. It's simply the relationship of man and woman. The world is the way it is because of the creation that God has created, man and woman, the human creation. And so the disaster and the problems of humanity has got to deal with these two humans that God has created as mankind. Woman, womankind, and mankind. And we see in the situation that we are living in, we continue to marvel at some of the happenings on earth. And whatever and however we want to see it, it involves man and woman. We are seeing a situation that is arising right now, whereby we are heading in our world today to see and behold the first woman president of the United States. This is something that I am sure the majority of men in the world, without question, I don't even have to make a survey, but without question, I am convinced already that the majority of women in the world are supportive of that upcoming situation that we are facing. Brothers and sisters, we look and we see our societies and how they have been constructed in the last couple hundreds of years. And this society has been constructed, organized, and orchestrated by man. Nearly everything that we are able to behold on our earth today, the systems, the different types of rules and regulations and laws have all been perpetrated by man. Mankind, that man, not womankind. And what we have also seen and we have also understood is that man created, well, not created because there's one creator. Man invented systems that is in accordance with his whims and fantasies, how he would like to see the world is, how he, with his brain that he has placed so much emphasis on, with his intellectual education that he thinks is so sustainable for us to live by and live with, we have experienced what we are experiencing now. Discrimination, wars, hatred, jealousy, envy. We speak about things that sound very nice, but the practice of these things are not to be desired. And since God has created only, as far as we understand, in this earth, these two creatures, man and woman, then when there is a change that has to come about for the future of the generations to come, then as it used to be a matriarch society, which means that women used to rule this earth at one time, that was taken over by men. And we are now experiencing in this era of life, we are experiencing that he is losing his power. He's lost his pride as man, and now he is losing his power. Hence I wrote the book, Woman and the Fear of Man. Those of you who are interested in this book, you can have it from us. We are seeing, brothers and sisters, in this time of our lives, changes, not changes by man, for man and his political system, whatever that might mean, or whatever that might be. For I'm still, like I said, trying to find out what is the meaning of politics. Systems that have been devised by man so that he can control his fellow man. That's why you had slavery. It's a control of man, man's system that he has organized in order to control his fellow man. And in this case of slavery, his fellow black man. This year is the year of the people of African descent, brothers and sisters. And I have no other alternative but to speak generally of how the God that I believe in is involved in these matters. For there is nothing that's happening. Man might feel to himself that he is a powerful creation that is able to determine the existence and the way of life that we all should live. But it has reached this stage in this era where we are finding that that is no more as he has regulated it to be. We're facing now a woman that is the presidential candidate for the United States of America. Now, we cannot make any mistake, brothers and sisters. The influence of the USA is in every part of this earth. Even those who oppose the USA are not as distributed on this earth as the USA. And so we are influenced, especially those of us who are considered to be third world countries. Because man even did that. Man has taken the world, this earth, this planet that Almighty God has created. He has taken this planet to behave as if he owns it, and that whatever he decides, that's the way it should be. Even though man is still not aware of how he came to be. where did he come from? Man doesn't know that. Man has not been able to describe that to us. He describes the formation of the interaction between male and female of a sexual nature that then brings about a living soul. But before that, he is in no position to tell us. For example, we know that sperm is the essence of life. But we don't know how sperm is made. And we don't know where sperm comes from, apart from the fact that it is generated through that plants the seed in the female so that she becomes pregnant. And then after 9 months, sometimes prematurely, brings about a soul that is either male or female. See there again, woman, female. There's always a male to her. She's always a man to her or a male to her. Which gives us the idea that qualities of the male is embedded in her. That's why she carries the title man and male. When we see a woman vying for the presidency of one of the most heavily sustained countries in the world, then we know that God is involved. Then we know that this is not just a coincidence. And those of you who have been following the politics in the United States of America would have already garnered the ideas that there was a former president who is opposing the present president who are seeking a second term in office. We realize, brothers and sisters, and that is what we have to look at as coming from the so-called third world. Remember, God created on this planet this one world, and man, again, has taken it upon himself to divide this world into different parts. The world that God has created, he has taken it into himself with theories, with myths, with all kinds of different things to try to prove to us that he knows that he does not know. See, that's the whole thing. We are loaded with theories and we are loaded with all kinds of different perceptions from man, trying to make himself into what he can never be, and that is God. And when he reaches the stage whereby he realizes that he hasn't got the ability, he hasn't got the nature of being a God, then he uses oppression, racism, and all different other aspects of power which is supported by wealth and indignity to prove that he is as powerful as the one who created him. We can go into our families, brothers and sisters. Ask yourself why there are so many divorce cases. Ask yourself why there are so many marriages that only last sometimes for just 2 years or 3 years. I met a sister yesterday who told me that she's only married for a year and she wants a divorce. And you know, it is because of so many different tragic elements that shows us that in our world, man and woman have got a problem among themselves. For when women are asking for equal rights, which they are not asking for anymore, they have already passed that stage. They are not asking to be looked upon as equal anymore. They feel to themselves that they are already equal and that they already are in a position to take care of themselves. Single parents, brothers and sisters, all over the world, all over, single parents, women with children whom man is not capable of taking care of. And so his position that he has taken in order to try and portray himself, for our scriptures tell us that man, in all our scriptures, it has told us that man is the provider and the protector of women. That's what he said. And when we are looking at the formidable situation as far as women are concerned, we don't see no protector and provider as our scriptures have indicated to us. When we look at the presidential race in America right now, between a male who has tried to portray himself as the consequence of being the planter of the seed, because that's what he's saying. He's saying that since he plants the seed, and since she can't get pregnant without the seed, that he is the one to be recognized, the one that is supposed to hold the power through political systems that he has orchestrated and commemorated. But then we have the sisters who are, and that is going to be playing a very important role in this up and coming election that they're going to be having in a few months' time in the United States. The role of abortion rights. So he has reached a stage that even though he plants the seed, she can get rid of it without his permission. She is saying it is her body, and she can do with her body what she wants to do with her body, even if she has the seed of your body in her. Do you see what man has done to himself? That's what he has done to himself. In our ancient cultures, brothers and sisters, it has always been, all the cultures, the ancient cultures, that a man is allowed to have more than one wife. That is not a sexual undertaking. It has been permitted for all kinds of various reasons. Our colonial masters, after enslaving us, taking us away from the cultures that we were born into, where rules and regulations were already made and we were living in accordance with, and brought us out of that environment, taking away our religious rights from us, taking away our God from us. And he has brought us into a situation where he commanded that man must have one wife. That is not the, for example, in our country, that's not the undertaking of the Africans, the Indians, neither the Amerindians, the three main ethnic groups in our country. It was never ordained one man to have one wife. The results of same-sex marriages is because of one man, one wife. That's how it came about. We never had same-sex marriages in our traditional environments. There was nowhere in Africa where you had one man, one wife. Never. In India, never. And therefore, that concept of life, because having more than one wife is having to look after your wives, having to take care of them. When you have one wife, then there are many women out there who have got to take care of themselves, and then the political system of man has allowed him to traffic those who are not married, especially young girls who only have one, who are only allowed to have one husband. That system has made him become an abominable human in accordance with this relationship of man and woman. And so when we hear about LGBT and we hear about same-sex marriages, and it's all coming out of the concept of one man, one wife. That was never the scene. It was never the idea. That was never God's idea in all our scriptures. If you look at the Christian Bible, you'll find Noah, Moses, David, Solomon, prophets of God who are supposed to be prophets of God. Theories that have been brought to us that we are supposed to believe in, but let's look at it as they have brought it. They all had more than one wife. And even though there were some LGBT going on in those societies, then it boils down to the same reasons why it was like that. And so the fight for woman to exalt herself and emancipate herself, especially for her children, because those are the ones that suffer. Look at the war in Gaza and see, brothers and sisters, how many children killed by man, murdered by man. In fact, all the wars, not just Gaza alone, all the wars that have started and have begun and have been carried through by man, the women and the children are the ones who continue to suffer, to die, to be maligned, and to be disgraced as a creation of Almighty God. Brothers and sisters, when I say to you that man and woman within the system that man has orchestrated are born enemies, you are not going to want to agree with me. But like I said at the beginning, you don't have to. It's my opinion. Because you can't tell me you love me, marry me, and then divorce me. You do that to your enemies. And that's what we see. That's what we understand. So when many people might be viewing the presidency of the United States being contested by a woman and believe to themselves that it has to do with politics, whatever that may be, democracy, whatever that may be, Democrats and Republicans, whatever that may be, they're still man and woman. Whatever way and whichever way you want to put it, it's like that. The male and the female energies of our universe. The sun is male, the moon is female, the earth is mother. It's always male and female. Look at what man is doing to his mother, Mother Earth. He says we come from the earth. That's what he says, because he can't tell us where the sperm comes from. So he says we come from the earth. It's quite all right. We have to be able to recognize his ignorance. Ignorance in the sense that he knows that he do not know. So we come from earth, from dust, and we go back to dust. His theories of his imaginations, and we see as we continue to live, we see his mistakes that he has led us into temptation to believe, and it has brought him in a confrontational position with his counterpart, which is woman. So when many of you are looking at, or many of us are viewing the present situation as being a political agenda in the United States of America, I am viewing it as the contrary opposition of each other, male and female, woman and man. In this case and in this sense, all the different tragedies that we are going through because of man's incompetence. I'm not saying that woman is more competent than he is. That's not what I'm saying, but what I'm saying is that it's her chance now in the era that is coming to show how competent she will be, and she is not going to lose. Kamala Harris. You have heard the name. And in this country, especially in our country, we need to be very cognizant of what Kamala means. It's the union of a black male, African male, with the union of a black Indian female. That is what Kamala Harris is all about. But what they're saying, they're not saying that it's the first woman president. They're saying it's the first black, which means the Indian in her is considered as being black, as well as the African in her. And it would be good for us to take note in our country and understand the groups who continue to fight against each other, who were led to fight and ridicule each other for years and years, and that has our country, what we going to call Kamala, Douglas? What we going to say? America is going to have a Douglas president? There's no word like that. That's a word that has been discriminatingly brought to portray the union of an African with an Indian as being outcast. That's how we look at it in this country. When you look at Kamala, she is the union of an African and an Indian. And she is heading to become the first black female, not only female, the first black female president of the United States. A country that is influential all over this planet. A country that is responsible for quite a lot of things on this planet. But Almighty God knows best. And regardless of what they might try to do, whatever they might try to do, brothers and sisters, you have to read in between the lines. You know, my mother used to tell me at one time, and I want to do something, and I know that my mother will not allow me to do it, or might not want me to do it. I used to want to come and do nice things, behave myself. I want to go to my friend's birthday party. So I behave myself. I clean the house, things that she would have to shout at me to do. Go and clean, go and do that. Man, I'm doing them. And when she see me doing them, she used to say to me, you go on and spell. I am going to read. You spell. Keep on spelling. Keep on doing all these nice things. That's your spelling. I can read. And that's what's happening. What is happening right now is that we need to look at the spelling, and we need to read the words and read the actions. It's not a coincidence that the president has dropped out of the race. It's not a coincidence. And you know, people might feel to themselves that he dropped out the race because he's too old. Age has nothing to do with it. Age has nothing to do with it. There are presidents in this world today that are over 90 years old. At least a quarter of our planet and the countries in our planet are being ruled at this present point in time by woman, kind of man. And therefore, brothers and sisters, we are seeing they're calling it history. It's nothing about history, that's his story. History has taught us that women have ruled this earth before men. You can research it. I don't have the time to go into all of that, but research it and you will see. So it's nothing new that is happening. We are seeing today the amount of women in positions in the army, in the police force, in parliaments, all over. For example, Finland has a parliamentary cabinet of women for quite a few years now. The Prime Minister, the Minister of Health, Minister of Finance, all women. And so we are experiencing what Kamala, the Douglas woman, because that's what they would call her in Guyana. They ain't gonna call her that when they go to the States though. They're gonna call her that here. The mixture. And the two people in this country who seem not to understand that they need to be able to follow the pathway of goodness and love for each other in order for this country to progress. We have seen the teachers. Who is it that have the teachers on the street? Who is it that have our educators on the street? Man. Who are the people on the street that are mostly there protesting? Woman. Well, women are not prepared anymore to go through what they are going through here in Guyana, in India, in Bangladesh, in the Muslim countries. Our sisters are standing up. Standing up not because they want to show that they can fight against men, but standing up because man has failed. He has failed. He is a total failure with his systems of all kinds of different things. Communism, imperialism, capitalism, democracy. They are all different names he has come up with. We never heard about those things in our prophets have never come to tell us about that. Have you heard God's prophets talk about capitalism and imperialism? Huh? God has sent his prophets to tell us how to live with each other. There are rules and regulations that have been set out. How man must behave, how he must treat woman, what he must do, how he must take care of her, how he must look after his family. He has failed. Kamala Harris, by the grace of God, I'm not saying that she's going to be better, but she's going to be different, because God is a God of change. We know that God is a God of change. Why? Because we are born as children and we change into adults. It's always change. From 1 month to 2 months is change, 9 months is a change, 1 year is a change, 2 years until we become old. It's all change. It's a God of change. This is not a God that is one way. And God is the author of life or death. God knows what happens when we die. We don't know. We can only guess. We have no idea. But things are changing, and we know that all the men that have become presidents, prime ministers, leaders, so-called leaders who have got the world in disarray right now, all of them have attained those positions because of the support of woman. Ain't got a settlement. You let the women don't vote in a country, just the men alone. and see what will happen. And when there is now a woman that is a significant woman because of the country that she is vying to represent and the influence that that country has, it means that she is, without doubt, going to be having the support and the backing of nearly all the women on this planet. There is no way that the brother who claims to be the male that's running against her would be able to withstand the pressure that he's going to get. Because you know, God has a way of carrying you to heights so that when you fall, everyone can see. Because we are dealing with a just God, a God of justice. And we are looking at our sister, our black Indian sister. You know, the name, Kamala, it's an Indian name. That's what it is. And her father is an African. And we have the audacity in this country to look at each other and talk about who is Koli and who is black. We have the audacity. God has wrapped it up in one to show us what it means to understand the theological aspect of our lives on this earth. Don't worry with the politics. You're looking at Democrats and Republicans. She's going to have to fall into some things that man has already orchestrated. But whatever God has got planned for her and for our world, we will see it. And we will know it. And we will understand it.
Welcome, Jack Complex, open daily, herbal and traditional pharmacy. Alternative medicine products for all various ailments. Visit our vegetarian cafeteria, affordable meals made to order. Burgers, hot dogs, soup, sandwiches, etc. Location, 25 Dazrak Street, Triumph East Coast Demerara, behind the Regional 4 RDC. Telephone 626-5877 or 220-4386. Remember, you are what you eat.
Man create his own monster. Weapons of damnation and disaster. No sign at all of human rights. The day has turned into night. Is racialism so? And segregation so? Which way is left to go? I don't know. Hold on. Tell me, what about love thy neighbor? Tell me, what about he ain't heavy, he's my brother. Nobody cares a damn anymore. All they got on their mind is war.
Welcome, Jack Complex, open daily, herbal and traditional pharmacy. Alternative medicine products for all various ailments. Visit our vegetarian cafeteria, affordable meals made to order. Burgers, hot dogs, soup, sandwiches, etc. Location, 25 Dazrak Street, Triumph East Coast Demerara, behind the Regional 4 RDC. Telephone 626-5877 or 220-4386. Remember, you are what you eat.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Like I said, look into your homes. Look into the homes of married couples. Go down to the courts, the law courts, and see the amount of divorces. But the new thing is that woman is up and coming to take over the reins of this planet. And we would do well in Guyana, you women, to see, are you prepared to continue to walk the streets and beg men to pay you more wages? Is that your position? That's long gone. That doesn't happen anymore. Barbados, Prime Minister, is a woman. She won nearly all, well, in fact, she won all the seats in the election. She had to turn around and distribute. She had to make an opposition by distributing some of her seats that she had to give it to some of those men. So we are in a situation as men, not all of us, but the majority who claim to be our leaders. Look at our male religious leaders, especially in our country here. So many things are happening. What are they saying? Huh? It would do well for the women of our country to look at Kamala Harris and don't think that she's easy. She has always been the vice president of the present president, and she has kept herself humble as a vice president, not to go out there and make herself look. She kept herself and her role as a woman. Today, that role has been handed over to her. His role has been handed over to her, and she is not going to make any type of mistake in not carrying it the way God is going to be directed to be carried. Brothers and sisters, just in closing, we are now preparing for emancipation, the people of African descent. It's a good time to have a Kamala as President of the United States, representing the people of African descent. And we are preparing here for emancipation, whatever that might be. For we celebrate this every year, but every year it's the same thing. We have here the ancestors of the manumitted Africans of Guyana. I have introduced this book to you. It's a booklet, and I'm still introducing it to you, especially the people of African descent, to purchase this as a gift for each other for emancipation. I will be speaking about emancipation in another sermon, and when we look again, coming back to the situation facing the United States of America with Kamala Harris and the opposition, which is the ex-president, we look at an emancipated woman. And that is what women have been able to do in this century, emancipate themselves. I wonder if my African brothers and sisters, my black brothers and sisters, understand what emancipation is. And before I finish, again, I remind you, the Indians and the Africans of this country, that the present woman, the present woman that is vying for the presidency of the United States is combined with the two ethnic groups in this country that behaving as if they don't like themselves and don't understand that they are both black people. Understand it. It's beautiful to be black. But in this country, we have that feeling that to be black is to be low. It's the lowest stage that one can attain any kind of recognition as being a human being. It's the lowest stage of humanity. That is what has been indoctrinated to us by an Indian and by an African. It's an African and an Indian who have got us in the situation that we are in right now, regardless of what they have done and how much you feel they have done as leaders for a country like this. You see, regardless of what you might think, but they have us in this situation. And if we don't understand that, we have to work together. We have to be emancipated enough to understand that. For regardless of which part of the world we go, any one of us, whether you're Indian or African, you're considered black. Have you heard what happened in London, in England, last month? Huh? The Prime Minister, who is a black Indian, was removed from office. A landslide victory for the opposition, which means that the members of his own party, Prime Minister Sunak, of his own party, left him. And those of you who consider yourselves indentured workers in this country, as opposed to the blacks who came here as slaves, understand that the word worker and the word laborer means slave. So the Indians that were brought here as indentured slaves. The Africans came here as slaves. Indentured means that you didn't come in chains, but you came as slaves. Brothers and sisters, the truth is always the truth, and nothing but is the truth of each and every one of us, the creator of each and every one of us. And rules and regulations have been made to keep us in line how we should live on this earth, how we should amalgamate with each other. And man has taken it upon himself to change that. And woman is in the process of getting rid of the ignorance and the philosophy and the political, whatever that may be, ideology that man has put himself in order to make himself a God. The truth is the truth and nothing but the truth. So help me God. Assalamu alaikum.
Brothers and sisters, practical experience is the greatest teacher. Memory is the greatest truth. And ingratitude, ungratefulness, is the greatest sin. Remember that.
Breaking down is a whole big runaround. A lot of talk is what goes on, while the world is left to mourn. Starvation taking toll, weapons out of control. The atmosphere is cold, so cold. Oh Lord, tell me, what about love thy neighbor? Tell me, what about he ain't heavy, he's my brother. Nobody cares a damn anymore. All they got on their mind is war, war. Tell me, what about about peace and happiness. Hey. They making new laws every day, and those of the master they throw away.
Welcome, Jack Complex, open daily, herbal and traditional pharmacy. Alternative medicine products for all various ailments. Visit our vegetarian cafeteria, affordable meals made to order. Burgers, hot dogs, soup, sandwiches, etc. Location 25 Dazrak Street, Triumph East Coast Demerara, behind the Regional 4 RDC. Telephone 626-5877 or 220-4386. Remember, you are what you eat.